Hi and welcome to Connected Sensors. Today we're going to go over some of our products and the design that we've come together with as it relates to our library of products. So the first thing that I'd like to show you all is the two, call it nodes that we work with. One is battery powered, and the other one has a external power adapter with battery backup in the enclosure. So before we go into this, I'd like to start by explaining a bit more about this product that we've come together with. One is the enclosure is IP67. There's 4 screws on each corner that are required to be removed to get access to the batteries. Those screws are hex 10 keys. And the reason being is, for example, our water sniffer adapter, which is the leak detection, if it was placed into Mrs. Smith's washroom and Mrs. Smith ran out of battery life in her remote while watching TV, the likelihood that the first thing she's going to think of is, where do I get some batteries, are relatively high. And one of the first things Mrs. Smith is going to look at is the nearest products near her where there's batteries. And so to ensure that our batteries don't get removed from them, and that we always have power and the devices are always active, we've kind of made it a little harder for Mrs. Smith to pull the batteries out of our enclosure. Beyond that, what you have here is a one-time use power button to ensure that nobody can ever turn off the power again. Following which, this button is then used as a communications device that basically sends a signal and says, "Hey, yes, I'm working." So that's the alternative use of the power button once the device has been activated. Within this enclosure, the battery-operated version works with 3.6 volt batteries. This gives us the most amount of battery life possible, one that we're very proud of. In fact, our water sniffer, we expect a 10 to 15 year battery life from it, which we're quite proud of. When it comes to the mounting of this enclosure, there's 3 options: screwed in, zip ties, or in the back, it also comes with 2-way tape. With every box comes a set of screws, zip ties, and 2-way tape to ensure that you can use whatever mounting options you require for each product. Our WMS, the battery-powered device, is one that can use a multitude of adapters to do different types of sensing within the same enclosure. So what I have on my right hand on the other side is all the adapters that we currently have and that we will keep going, we'll do a deep dive into as it relates to how they connect into the WMS and how those can be applied in the field and what their use cases are. As you can tell, I probably have 4 or 5 different adapters here on my right hand, and as we speak today, we're continuing to develop a larger library of options to continue to serve our clients based on what they require in the field. The WMS Duo is our powered option with battery backup. The purpose of this enclosure or this device is relative to the amount of data or information that is transmitted over the air in a certain given period of time. And the use cases that we've built around the WMS Duo include the valve actuation, which we can see here. And we'll talk about this in a bit. There is also the pulse meter reading to determine water flow and understand the water usage over time. And what this does here is this device basically makes the logic of the system not necessarily localized in the building, but you have unique devices in the field that are directly communicating to our platform. So if you think about a BAS system, everything needs to go back right to the main server, main computers, where the logic is built, and then it goes back down to the decision making within the property, whether that's working with the chillers, the boilers, valve actuation, and many other options. What we've done here is given that same kind of granularity, however, made this into one device so that you don't have to then go and rewire an entire property with your with the BAS system, and you can do this right at the source. So, for example, on a construction site, you'll have your main water supply, main water inlet coming into your property, and if you want to reduce your water risk during construction, one of the first things you're going to think of is, okay, how might I identify if there's water flow past construction hours? So let's say 6 p.m. onwards till 6 a.m. in the morning. And how might I connect that to a butterfly valve, an actuator, to ensure that we shut off the water in the event that there was flow of water after hours. This is it. Plug this in, take the high-low contact, connect this to the actuator. You take our pulse meter reader, and you clamp this onto the meter, which is going to measure if there's flow of water at any given time of the day, and off you go. The rest of the logic is built either over firmware in our enclosure or in the cloud. Our water streamer is effectively a pulse adapter, and what it's used for is to identify the volume of water going through a specific meter. For this purpose, we've used a very small meter just for illustration purposes, but the same thing applies to any pulse meter, and it doesn't matter if you're in a commercial application, a high-rise, the same adapter can work for any pulse meter, any pulse meter, including some encoder meters. That being said, if you have an ultrasonic meter, this will not be applicable use case for that meter. So for the purpose of this illustration, I just want to showcase how simple it is to basically tie this to the meter. This reads the volume of water going through the meter when the water passes through, and then you take the adapter here, you plug it into our enclosure, whether it's the battery-powered enclosure so that you have a battery-powered meter reader, or the WMS Duo where it can be a powered version. In both cases, the application is the same. The purpose of the water streamer is to identify water consumption, pipe bursts, and unusual water usage. This will help you identify if you've got any leakage or water loss. For example, continuous consumption of water after hours. It's going to help you identify if, for example, if you're in a multi-residential building and the property is occupied, it's an older property, you may actually have some leakage in terms of toilet leakage and faucet leakage and so on. And unless your tenants tell you that they have problems with their infrastructure, their toilets or faucets, you'll never know. And so this device here gives you the ability to understand what the water consumption is at all times so you can take appropriate action to solve those problems. As for construction site, for example, this is a great example of a device that can be mounted on any meter that is, again, mechanical pulse meter, during the course of construction to identify water consumption after hours. In the event that there's water consumption after hours, you can then alert your security team, or we can alert your team internally so that you may take appropriate action to inspect the premises, identify if there's been a pipe burst, and if there's a flood happening in progress. Here we have our water sniffer rope sensor. The water sniffer rope sensor is designed for mechanical areas, electrical rooms, risers, in any areas that are less visible to the human eye, while also providing great coverage to detect leaks. So this orange rope that you see here has the ability to, when it touches water, determine if there's a flood or if there's no flood. Hence why we call it the water sniffer. Great application in commercial based buildings. And sometimes you may actually want it for putting this underneath your washing machine at home or in your unit to identify if there's any issues, or any floods happening under your washing machine. It can easily be tied around to risers or different areas, or even drains for that matter. And it also comes with its own unique set of brackets so that you may properly locate it to where it's required for you. Again, same adapter. This is the WMS, so the battery operated version. You take the enclosure, you plug it in, screw it, and away you go. Our water sniffer flood sensor is a 2-contact sensor that gets mounted onto the floor, where you have the ability to screw it in, use the 2-way tape in the back here, and this is when water comes on the floor, it reaches the 2 contacts and sends a signal to our platform to identify you that you've had a water event, a leak, a flood. So the contacts here, part of the uniqueness of our water sniffer adapter is that there is a gap between the contacts and the floor, and what that allows for is a certain volume of water being accumulated before the contacts get triggered. In addition to that, you also have the contacts in the back of the enclosure rather than the front, and this helps prevent false positives. Our water sniffer flood sensor is a great usage for in-unit multi-residential commercial applications, anywhere where you would likely have more of a visible eye touching this product. Again, for application purposes, we use the WMS, plug the water sniffer adapter into it, and away we go. And off we're ready. Our water floor adapter is an endpoint sub-metering option. What this does is you plug it into the wall right before your water supply, whether that's hot or cold, and it'll measure the flow of water being used or consumed by your tenants. This gives you the ability to sub-meter each and every tenant apartments. One of the main reasons why we've come up with this product is that the existing multi-residential properties have a plumbing system where they don't have the ability to sub-meter each and every unit as a result of the plumbing system. And what I mean by that is all the kitchen sinks are plumbed together, so from the first floor all the way to the 30th floor, let's say. And so it becomes virtually impossible to sub-meter the units. So what we do here is we install this water floor at the hot and the cold, in the washroom, at the toilet, at the kitchen sink, and we aggregate all these data points plugged into this WMS into the cloud, where we have the ability to aggregate the data and determine the water consumption for each individual tenant. Again, like every other adapter, it's as simple as taking the WMS, plugging it in, and you're ready to go. Our WMS Duo is our device that we use to actuate valves of any size. The way this works is first we've got the power adapter that gets plugged in, either 12 volt or 24 volt. We need to know the cut sheet of the actuator before we can determine which power source to give you. Then what we have here is the adapter that sends the current to the actuator to be able to actuate whatever valve that is. And following which, you've got the water streamer adapter, which we've shown in previous videos, and we will bring back in follow-up videos. In this case, what you have is a simple two-wire contact that has built-in logic into this box. And what we call this is our jumbo water stopper. Now let's go over the options from a technical standpoint as to what we can work with from an actuator perspective. There's really four options. There's discrete I/O module, which we see here on version or option A, so which is available either in 12 or 24 volt, and that is one of the most common options. In second term, we have the direct drive, which is effectively only available for 2-inch or less. And then following which we have the option C, which is the 4 to 20 milliamp signal. And last but not least, the serial interface RS-483 or RS-232. In this case, what we have is option B, which is direct current here, where we would send signal directly from these two wire right to the actuator, and this would be the way we would communicate with this actuator. One of the most common use for our WMS Duo is the ability to, one, read water consumption, determine high flow and or leaks, and the ability to actuate the necessary valve to turn off the water in the event of a flood. This is part of the uniqueness of this device, is that we can create logic in the device when there is unusual flows of water so that we actuate the valve right away. We think that this product will be revolutionary for the built environment.